Welcome to The Last Scout Show. I am your host, The Last Scout, and we are broadcasting from the Okeechobee Frontier Studios on the Missouri-Kansas border, small town, rural America. The Last Scout Show is a production of Okeechobee and LSR Radio. Well, I hope you're all doing good out there. Boy, is it so insane right now. I cannot believe it. But it is a thing that we have to deal with, I suppose, or not deal with. It's all up to you. I can't call it for you. But you, as an independent, free American with constitutional rights, you can do something about it, whatever that's bothering you. Just make sure it's legal. Man, I have been watching the news, and I'm not sure how this episode's going to go, so we shall just see. But before we jump into it, let's have a little bit blast of surfing music to get us in the mood for what's coming. Okay, well, if you're keeping up with what's going on in America, especially when it has to deal with a homeland security, well, yesterday, President Trump signed the orders to send the National Guard down to the border to secure it because we don't have a border wall. Real simple. And now we've got these hordes of Hondurans and other Central Americans, and who knows what's in the mix. We know for sure from the Border Patrol, like I said in the last show, that we do have Middle Easterners coming up through the border. So you've got what they're estimating is 1,200 people that are coming up, and so President Trump felt like he needed, in the best interest of protection of the American people, that he needed to send the troops down there. So, just a quick article. I'm not going to read this whole thing because I got to bounce to something else real quick. But it comes from Fox News. President Trump signed a proclamation Wednesday night to send the National Guard to the southern border immediately, a senior White House official told Fox News, in response to what the administration described as an unacceptable flow of drugs, criminal activity, and illegal immigrants. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen said at the White House press briefing that the signing would be done in conjunction with the governors and that the administration hoped the deployment would begin immediately. So, okay, we understand, get the governors involved, but what has happened? And I don't have her name in front of me. I don't want to hear her name. I don't care what her name is. Those of you from Oregon, you ought to be a damn shame. Because your governor has said that she will not send Oregon National Guard troops to the U.S. border for border security. She says she'll defy the president and not obey any order to send Oregon National Guard members down to the border. Okay, well, the only thing that you got to worry about is the coast there on the west, right? I mean, you got Washington to the north of you, you got California to the south of you, but then with the way the situation's going in California, I guess we could debate that you needed to deploy the National Guard to the California border. Anyway, so President Trump, and this isn't the first time that troops have been down on the border. I think it was in 2011 or 2012 that Obama sent troops, National Guard, down to the border back in when Rick Mofo Perry was Texas governor. So, you got that. But then, in a twist of things, what happens also yesterday, and this is from Reuters, Central American caravan to end in Mexico City, migrants defiant. Central American migrants stranded on a journey through Mexico because of U.S. President Donald Trump's pressure on the Mexican government say they will struggle on towards the United States, even as their caravan said it would disband in Mexico City. Fearful of the risk to children among the bedraggled and tired knot of travelers, the organizers of the annual caravan, U.S.-based advocacy group Pueblos Sin Fronteras, said it would end in the capital, not at the border, as had been planned. It was not because of Donald Trump, said Ireneo Mujica, director of Pueblos Sin Fronteras, which has staged the caravan since 2010 to draw attention to migrants' rights and help them. Okay, so this has been going on since 2010, so that makes 8 years of it. I don't really know of any news coverage of it in the past. I mean, and I cover the news pretty much, but for 8 years this one slipped past me. Well, that's okay. I guess you can't know about everything, but now I know about it. Now the American people know about it, and the press with BuzzFeed, that Flores guy, I think's his name, traveling up with them. So they made it a big deal. Gee, I wonder why. It couldn't be because it's November coming up, is it? Could it be? Could it be? Could it be? So here we go. I'm going to read on just a little bit more. Mujica said the group did not want to put children on freight trains, which are traditionally used to cover part of the journey to the border. Nicknamed La Ballesta, the train is infamous for causing injuries to migrants. Trump had lashed out at the caravan, accusing Mexico of failing to stop illegal immigrants heading to the border. The president took a hard line on illegal immigration during the 2016 election campaign and is frustrated by the failure of Congress to fund his long-promised border wall. Trump would sign a proclamation on Wednesday ordering the deployment of the National Guard to the border with Mexico, Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen said. Mexican officials, meanwhile, have screened people in the caravan, stalling it and dispersing migrants. The foreign ministry denied putting pressure on the migrants, saying that the caravan was breaking up on its own volition. Okay, so let's just go ahead and stop here a minute. I might read on a little bit more on it, but we got some big points coming here. So, you've got this group, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, something like that organizes every year for publicity, which I've never heard of until this year, caravan of immigrants or migrants, moving them up to the U.S. border. Okay, I got you. But boy, I tell you what, the one thing that gets me about this whole thing, and this is the first thoughts that I had about it when I heard that and we're going to, so I don't have to mess up the name all the time, we're going to call it the PSF, the Pueblos Sin Fronteras. So anyway, the PSF organizes all this, moves thousands upon thousands, and let's be honest, we really don't have a good number. The most minimal number we've heard is 1,200. But as the caravan moved along, how many more joined? Because PSF is funded by the Soros Group, we know that. So they move all these people up, women, children, men, but from what I understand on the reports, fighting age men, if you catch my drift. Well, we're aware of it. Come on, we're well aware of it. So anyway, you drag them all through this big, elongated, dangerous trek up from the Hondura, supposedly, all the way up until you get to Mexico City, and then you decide you're going to disperse. But it has nothing to do with United States troops sending, or the United States president sending troops to the border. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because you're worried about their safety. Well, wait a minute. Really? PSF, you're worried about their safety? Then for God's sakes, why did you stop and let it break up and dissolve your responsibilities to it in Mexico City? Does anybody see how bizarre this is? So now you've left these immigrants, these migrants up from the Honduras and other Central American countries, I'm sure, along with who knows who else. You bring them all the way up to Mexico City, dissolve it because of their safety. And that, I'm sorry, that just doesn't quite add up to me. I mean, we understand that Mexico City is a violent place. We understand the drug cartels. So who really put the pressure on you? You say it wasn't President Trump. Well, then who was it? Who was it? PSF? Who was it? Arenio Mujica? And I'm probably chopping that name up. Well, hell, that's the way it goes, ain't it? So now, with the crime in Mexico City, the drug cartel murder rates throughout the entire country, you just say adios. You say arrivederci. You say auf Wiedersehen to those migrants that you drug all the way up from the south. I know who put the pressure on you. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the smuggling, the drug cartel and the smuggling cartel, it's all in the same. So I'm sure that there was a major push by the coyotes. And I told you in the last show that this group coming up from the Honduras, coming up through Central America, I told you in my last show that they were going to be a big market boom for the coyotes in Mexico. And guess what? Sure enough, that's where the pressure came from. Pressure didn't come from the Mexican government. No, the Mexican government's got to dot their I's and cross their T's on this one. But the drug cartels, they slash their I's and shoot their T's. So now, like I said, it's going to be a coyote mart all along the border. And there's no telling, oh my God, there's no telling how many of these poor women and children and others possibly will get pushed into some kind of prostitution, some kind of sex ring. Who knows? But to think that PSF led these people all the way up, all this big production of look at us, look at the poor migrant, look at what's going on in Honduras, all this going on, and what do? You abandon them in Mexico City. Totally abandon them in Mexico City. I mean, that's totally unbelievable. That's totally heartless. But you know what? The drug cartels run that stuff down there. Yeah, you've got the Mexican government, but let's get down to it. Who's making all the under-the-table money smuggling these illegals across the United States border? It's the coyotes. It's the drug cartels that are, that are just a part of the spider web. So, you've abandoned those people, and you said yourself, it wasn't because of President Trump. Then I cannot believe you let those people down like that. America should be outraged that this group brought all these people up and then just abandoned them, left them there in Mexico City. I mean, really think about that. Think deep about that. But yet we're sold all this poor immigrants coming up from Central America. American people should feel guilty. President Trump should feel guilty. No, we don't feel guilty. But we do feel empathy for the people that were dumped there by the PSF, the Pueblos Sin Fronteras. Way to go. Well, of course, it's another Soros plan, so what do you expect? Anyway, well, Last Scout Show. I'll be back right after this.
The world has turned over many times since I took the oath on the plain at West Point, and the hopes and dreams have long since vanished. But I still remember the refrain of one of the most popular barrack ballads of that day, which proclaimed most proudly that old soldiers never die. They just fade away. And like the old soldier of that ballad, I now close my military career and just fade away.
And the Last Scout Show is back with its smooth jazz sounds for a nice night in the spring. Curl up on the couch with a loved one, candlelight. The best bottle of what it is you prefer to drink. And just get mellow. Just get chilled out. With the Last Scout Show, smooth jazz at night. Oh, believe it or not, way back in the day, about 20 years ago, I had a 4-hour show on Sunday morning out in a rural area at a real radio station. And I did, from 8 in the morning till noon, a jazz show. That's right, playing George Benson, playing Joni Mitchell, all the good stuff. You know, the classic jazz, Herb Alpert, that kind of thing. Really, I did. I really enjoyed it. Did it for about a year. Didn't make any money at it, but it wasn't about the money. It was to knock out satellite radio and bring a hometown boy in there, bring him some music. And it got real popular, I have to admit. I was very proud of that. Very, very proud of that. So anyway, getting on back, just one other thing I want to bring up before I close out is, so, troops to the border, caravans dissolved and left abandoned in Mexico City, all at the same time. You have a leftist Mexican presidential candidate that leads in the polls in Mexico, I think by 8%. His name is Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, okay. And can you believe it? I mean, oh my gosh, we got Trudeau to the north, and that poor mess that Canada's in. And now comes a candidate, a socialist candidate in Mexico that is leading in the polls there. And one thing that he said that he would do, and he's totally following Chavez and Maduro of Venezuela. He's totally looking at the same. And he wants, get ready for this, what brought down Venezuela? Economically, when Venezuela took over the oil companies. And this cat wants to do the same thing. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador wants to take, if he's elected president of Mexico, he wants to take over the oil companies. And where is that going to lead us? Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. Let's see, just his supporters. Where did it go? I had it. Anyway, there's a whole article about it in Reuters that's worth reading. But hard to believe that we, at the height of right, oh man, could you imagine if HRC had won the presidency? She'd be like, oh, okay, who can I kill for you to make you president of Mexico? Oh, geez. Anyway, it just absolutely, totally, absolutely blows me away. But that's something to keep our eye on, that it's a very good possibility that Mexico is going to end up with a socialist president. Just like Maduro, just like Chavez, and down the tubes Mexico will go even further. Well, I appreciate you listening in. It's been a great one today. Be sure and check out, you can find me over at We the People, Patriot Soapbox, 24/7 live stream on YouTube. I'm over there on it live from time to time. And I'm getting a new computer for my birthday, from what I understand. I'm so excited. Anyway, from the Okojo Frontier Studio on the Missouri-Kansas border in small-town rural America, this, The Last Scout Show, is an Okojo LSR radio production. I do appreciate you listening. Take care, and God bless.